Boys, I'm finished. You understand me? I'm finished. The caregiver's voice rang through the corporate childcare facility, sharp and exasperated. Marcus Bennett paused outside the glass doors, his maintenance badge frozen mid-swipe. Through the transparent walls, he could see 3 small, identical boys huddled against the far corner, their backs rigid against the wall, faces blank like porcelain masks. I don't care if your mother is the CFO of this entire corporation, the caregiver continued, her phone already in her hand. You've had 10 caregivers quit in 3 months. You just sit there like little statues. It's unsettling. It's not right. The triplets didn't move, didn't blink. They stared straight ahead, as if the woman didn't exist. Marcus should have kept walking. He had 3 more floors to clean before his shift ended. But something about those 3 boys, the way they held themselves so still, so carefully, like they were trying to disappear, made his chest tighten with recognition. He knew that stillness. He'd lived with it for 6 months after the accident. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. The caregiver stormed past him, phone pressed to her ear. Yes, Miss Chen, I'm calling to inform you that I quit, effective immediately. I can't work with children who won't even try. Her voice faded down the corridor. Marcus looked back at the triplets. 7 years old, maybe. Short, sandy blonde hair, matching blue sweaters, now rumpled from hours of sitting, and that terrible practiced emptiness in their eyes. The kind that comes from learning that silence is safer than speaking. He should walk away. He was just the janitor. This wasn't his problem. But those boys looked exactly like his daughter had looked back when Emma had decided the world was too loud, too painful, too much to face. Marcus made a choice. He pushed his cart through the childcare doors. The triplets' heads turned slightly, watching wary. Hey, Marcus said softly, keeping his distance. He didn't approach them, just stood near the door, making himself small, unthreatening. I'm Marcus. I clean this building. I heard what she said to you. No response. But their eyes tracked him now. She was wrong, he continued, his voice low and steady. You're not unsettling. You're not wrong. You're just scared, and that's okay. One boy's fingers twitched, the smallest movement, but Marcus caught it. He'd learned something crucial in the years since the accident. Sometimes the loudest communication happens in silence. I'm not going to make you talk. I'm not going to demand anything from you. I'm just going to be here for a minute, and then I'm going to leave. Is that okay? Still no response, but their shoulders lowered just a fraction. Marcus slowly sat down on the floor across the room from them, his back against the opposite wall. He didn't stare at them, just sat there, existing in their space without threat. 5 minutes passed. The only sound was the quiet hum of the building's air conditioning. Then Marcus stood up, nodded once to the boys, and left. As the door closed behind him, he heard it the softest exhale, like they'd been holding their breath, and finally felt safe enough to release it. Marcus pushed his cart down the hallway, his mind already working. Tomorrow he would come back, and he would bring something with him, something small, something smooth, something that said, "You're not alone." That night, in his small apartment across town, Marcus sat at his workbench in the corner of the living room. Wood shavings scattered across the surface as his carving knife shaped a small piece of oak wood. "Dad," Marcus looked up. His 7-year-old daughter, Emma, stood in the doorway in her butterfly pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Marcus's hands moved in the fluid gestures of American Sign Language. Can't sleep, sweetheart." Emma shook her head and padded over to the workbench. She peered at the half-carved object in Marcus's hands. "What are you making?" "A turtle for 3 boys who need something to hold on to." Emma tilted her head, curious. Like my turtle, Marcus glanced at the small shelf above the workbench where Emma's turtle sat. The first thing Marcus had carved 4 years ago when his daughter had stopped communicating after the accident, when his daughter had retreated so far inside herself that Marcus thought he'd never reach her again. "Exactly like your turtle," Marcus signed. Emma climbed onto the stool beside her father and watched him work. The scrape of knife against wood filled the comfortable silence between them. "Are they scared?" Emma signed after a moment. "Yes, very scared, like I was." Marcus set down his knife and looked at his daughter, this brave, beautiful girl who'd lost her hearing, lost her mother, lost her whole world in one terrible moment, and somehow found her way back. "Exactly like you were," Marcus signed. "But they're going to be okay, just like you." Emma nodded seriously, then signed. "You should give them the turtle tomorrow." It helped me. That's the plan. They sat together in the quiet apartment, father and daughter, carving hope into wood. The next evening, Marcus returned to the childcare center. The triplets were in the exact same spot, backs against the wall, knees drawn up, faces carefully blank. A different caregiver sat on the far side of the room, scrolling through her phone with the resigned expression of someone who'd already given up. Marcus knocked lightly on the doorframe. I need to check the vent above the boys. Maintenance request? The caregiver barely looked up. Whatever. Marcus wheeled his cart inside and set up his small stepladder near where the triplets sat. He didn't look at them directly, just moved with deliberate, unhurried motions, checking the vent that didn't actually need checking. After a few minutes, he climbed down. From his pocket, he pulled out the wooden turtle, smooth as silk, perfectly palm-sized, every edge rounded and soft. He'd spent 3 hours on it last night. 3 hours sanding until his fingers ached, until it felt like comfort in solid form. Marcus crouched down a few feet from the boys and placed the turtle on the floor between them. Then he stood up, collected his tools, and left without a word. He didn't look back, but as the door closed, he heard the softest rustle of movement, one small hand reaching for something soft in a world that had been too sharp for too long. Day 2, Marcus brought a carved wooden owl. Day 3, a fox. Day 4, a lion. Each evening he returned. Each evening he worked quietly near the triplets, gave them a new carving, and left without demanding anything in return. The caregivers rotated, different faces, same disinterest. But the triplets noticed Marcus. Their eyes followed him now, waiting, watching. By day 4, all 3 boys clutched their collection of carvings, fingers tracing the smooth surfaces over and over. Marcus recognized the gesture. Emma did the same thing when anxiety crept in. That repetitive motion, that need for something solid and safe. On day 5, Marcus made a choice. When he entered the childcare, the triplets were watching for him, actually watching, their heads turning as he approached. Marcus pulled out a wooden elephant and knelt down. Instead of just placing it on the floor, he held it in his palm, and then he signed for you. All 3 boys went completely still, their eyes locked on his moving hands with laser focus. Marcus signed again, slowly and carefully. My name is Marcus. I won't hurt you. You don't have to talk. One boy's mouth opened slightly, surprise flickering across his carefully blank face. He set the carved wooden elephant down and moved to his usual spot against the opposite wall. But instead of working, he just sat, just existed in their space, patient and present. 10 minutes of silence. Then Marcus stood, waved goodbye, and left. Day 6, Marcus brought a carved sun. This time, when he sat down, he signed a story. His hands painted pictures in the air. A tale about a sun that warmed all the children in the world, especially the ones who were scared, especially the ones who'd forgotten how to speak. The sun never demands anything, Marcus signed. It just shines quietly in the sky, letting everyone know they're not alone. The triplets watched every movement, mesmerized. When he finished, Marcus placed the sun on the floor and left. Day 7, when Marcus entered the childcare, his breath caught. The triplets had arranged all 6 wooden objects: turtle, owl, fox, lion, elephant, soon. A perfect line on the floor in front of them. A pattern, an offering, a response. Marcus's eyes stung. He sat down in his usual spot and pulled out the 7th carving, a wooden bear. This one is strong. It protects everything, but judges nothing. He placed it on the floor, and then one of the triplets moved. Slowly, trembling, he lifted his small hands. His fingers formed careful, uncertain shapes. Thank you. Marcus kept his face calm, even as emotions surged through his chest. He signed back, You're welcome. What's your name? The boy's hands moved again, spelling out each letter, Levi. His brothers watched. Then, gathering courage, they lifted their hands to Calebasher. Beautiful names, Marcus signed. It's nice to meet you, Levi, Caleb, and Asher. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Levi signed, Why do you talk with your hands? My daughter can't hear, so we talk like this. Do you like talking this way? All 3 boys nodded. Caleb's hands moved. People don't make us use our mouths when we talk like this. Understanding crashed over Marcus. Everyone wanted them to speak, to use their voices, to be normal. But sign language let them communicate without that pressure. It was a language of silence, and silence was where they felt safe. "You never have to use your mouth with me," Marcus signed. "Your hands say everything just fine." Asher's fingers moved hesitantly. "Our therapist taught us to sign. After we stopped talking, she said maybe we could talk this way instead. That was a good therapist. This is a real language, just as good as speaking." For the first time, something shifted in their faces. Not quite a smile, but close. Relief, recognition, hope. After that 7th day, Marcus came every evening. The triplets signed with him freely now, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. They told him stories through their hands, asked questions, shared small pieces of their world. 3 weeks in, Levi signed something that made Marcus's chest ache. "Our daddy used to yell a lot. He got mad when we didn't act right, when we were too loud or too quiet or too anything. One day he left and never came back." Caleb added, "We decided together to stop talking. Words only made people angry." Marcus signed carefully. Not all words make people angry, and silence is okay too. You get to choose how you communicate. Always. "Why are you nice to us?" Asher asked. Marcus thought about Emma, about Rebecca, about the accident that had shattered their lives 4 years ago. A stupid argument about groceries while she was driving. Another car swerving into their lane. The terrible sound of impact. Rebecca gone instantly. Emma losing her hearing when her head struck the window. He thought about the 6 months Emma had stopped communicating afterward. The guilt that still whispered in Marcus's mind. You distracted her. You could have stopped talking. You could have been driving instead. He thought about quitting his job as a paramedic because he couldn't face that much life anymore. About becoming invisible as a janitor because invisibility felt safer than being seen. Because I know what it's like to be scared, and I know what it's like when someone sees you anyway. One evening, Marcus brought Emma with him. The triplets' eyes went wide when they saw another child entering the childcare. Emma waved shyly and signed, "Hi, I'm Emma. I'm 7. My dad says you talk with your hands, too." Levi, Caleb, and Asher looked at each other, communicating in that mysterious triplet language. Then Levi signed back, "We're 7, too. Your dad is nice." "I know," Emma signed. "He carved this for me." She pulled out her own wooden turtle from her pocket. "When I'm scared, I hold it. It helps." Asher's eyes filled with tears. He held up his wooden turtle, the first one Marcus had given them. "It helps us, too." The 4 children sat together, comparing their wooden treasures, signing stories, laughing in complete silence. It was the most beautiful thing Marcus had seen since the accident. That's when Catherine Chen walked in. She'd left a meeting early, frustrated with yet another caregiver quitting. 12 months of this, 12 months since her sons had spoken a single word. 12 months of failed therapies, defeated specialists, and silence so complete it felt like her children had disappeared. She pushed open the childcare door, expecting to find her sons in their usual corner, shut down and unreachable. Instead, she found them sitting with the janitor and a young girl, all 5 of them signing to each other. The triplets' faces lit up with something she hadn't seen in over a year. "Joy? What?" Catherine's voice came out as a whisper. All 5 looked up. The triplets immediately went still, their smiles fading, but they didn't retreat. They stayed beside Marcus, Caleb's hand clutching his sleeve. The man stood quickly, respectfully. "I'm sorry, Miss Chen. I'm Marcus. Maintenance. I was just there, signing." Catherine's voice cracked. "They're actually communicating with you." "How? How did you do things?" "I didn't do anything special," Marcus said quietly. "I just sat with them. I didn't make them talk. My daughter is deaf, so we use sign language." The boys felt comfortable with it. Catherine looked at her sons, really looked at them. They were holding small wooden objects. Their faces weren't blank anymore. They were present, engaged, looking at this janitor with something in their eyes that made Catherine want to cry. "Trust, how long?" she asked, her voice shaking. "About 5 weeks. I started leaving them wooden carvings. Eventually, they felt comfortable enough to sign with me. 5 weeks. Catherine had walked past this childcare dozens of times. How had she not known? And they talk to you like this, full conversations. "They're brilliant," Marcus said simply. They just needed someone who would listen without demanding they speak. Levi signed something to his brothers. They nodded. Then Levi slowly signed to his mother. "He's nice. He doesn't make our mouths work. He gives us things to hold." He held up the wooden turtle. Catherine's hand flew to her mouth. She signed back, her fingers trembling. I'm so glad, sweetheart." All three boys looked shocked that their mother knew sign language. Catherine had been learning for months, practicing alone, desperately hoping for a chance to use it. "Mr. Bennett," Catherine said, and there was something raw in her voice, "would you be willing to continue spending time with them? Please, I know this is unusual, but you've accomplished something in 5 weeks that no one else could manage in a year. I'll compensate you." "No," Marcus said firmly, then softer. "I mean, no payment. If it helps them, I'll do it, but not for money." "Why?" Catherine asked. Marcus thought about Emma, about the people who treated his daughter differently after the accident, the teachers who spoke too slowly, the parents who pulled their children away, the strangers who stared like she was broken, because everyone deserves someone who sees them, not their diagnosis, not their trauma, just them. Catherine's throat tightened. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing my sons." It became routine. Every evening, Marcus spent time with the triplets. Emma joined them often. The 4 children formed their own world, a world where sign language was normal, where silence was respected, where wooden carvings were passed around like treasures. Catherine started joining them, too. She'd sit quietly, learning to be still, learning to listen with her eyes instead of her ears, learning to stop trying to fix her sons and just be with them. One evening, after the children had fallen asleep on the childcare mats, all 4 curled together like puppies. Catherine and Marcus sat by the window, talking in hushed voices. "I don't know how to thank you," Catherine said. "You've given me my sons back. They were never gone, just waiting. Still, you didn't have to do any of this." Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was low and honest. "After my wife died, people kept telling me to move on. Like grief was something I could just decide to stop feeling." He looked at the sleeping children. "But you can't move on from love. You just carry it differently." "What happened?" Catherine asked gently. And Marcus told her about the accident, about the argument in the car, something stupid about forgetting groceries that ended with screeching tires and shattered glass, about Rebecca dying on impact, about Emma surviving but losing her hearing, about the guilt that whispered in every quiet moment you distracted her. You could have stopped talking. About quitting his paramedic job because he couldn't face that much life anymore, about becoming invisible because invisibility felt safer. "Helping Levi, Caleb, and Asher," Marcus said softly. "It's not about moving on. It's about using what I learned from my own pain to ease someone else's. Otherwise, what was it all for?" Catherine reached over and took his hand. "You're a good man, Marcus Bennett." He looked at their joined hands, then up at her face. "You're pretty remarkable yourself." The moment stretched between them, charged, uncertain, full of possibility. "I should go," Marcus said, but he didn't move. "You should," Catherine agreed, but her hand tightened on his. And then somehow they were leaning toward each other, and Marcus's hand was cupping her face, and their lips met in a kiss that was gentle, tentative, and achingly hopeful. When they pulled apart, Catherine whispered, "I haven't felt this in so long." "Neither have I," Marcus admitted. "We should take this slow," Catherine said, "for the children. Coffee," Marcus suggested. "An actual date somewhere that isn't this childcare center." Catherine laughed softly. "Coffee sounds perfect." They started with coffee dates, long conversations in small cafes, where Marcus was just Marcus and Catherine was just Catherine. No titles, no roles, just 2 broken people learning to trust again. Their second date was lunch at a park. The children played nearby, running through grass, signing to each other, laughing. Marcus and Catherine sat on a bench, shoulders touching, watching their kids be kids. "They're good for each other," Catherine said. "They are." The third date, Marcus suggested a pottery class for children. He said, "Emma loves it. It's tactile, so she doesn't feel left out. I thought Levi, Caleb, and Asher might enjoy it too. Another way to express themselves." So one Saturday, they all went together, 4 children and 2 parents who were maybe becoming something more. Emma molded bold, abstract shapes. Levi created intricate geometric patterns. Caleb made a tall vase stretching from bottom to top of his space, precarious and beautiful. Asher sculpted a family of animals. Marcus and Catherine worked on pottery too, their wheels side by side, their hands brushing with touches that didn't feel accidental. "You're terrible at pottery," Catherine teased. "I'm a carver, not a potter," Marcus protested. They laughed, and it felt so normal, so light, so different from the grief they both carried. Months passed. Coffee dates became dinner dates. Pottery classes became weekly traditions. Weekend outings to museums and parks and bookstores where the children explored, and Marcus and Catherine built something real. They were taking it slow, but they were also falling. One evening on Catherine's balcony, after the children were asleep, Marcus said quietly, "Is it wrong to be happy again? Sometimes I feel guilty." "It's not wrong," Catherine interrupted gently. "Rebecca would want you to be happy. Love after loss is possible. It doesn't diminish what came before." Marcus was quiet. "My therapist said something similar, that we're capable of holding more than one truth at a time." "Exactly." Catherine took his hand. "You loved Rebecca. You love Emma, and maybe you're starting to love us too." Marcus looked at her and nodded. "Yeah, I think I am. I'm falling for you too," Catherine admitted. "You and Emma, you've become so important to us." They kissed on the balcony as city lights sparkled below, and it felt like a promise. 6 months after that first wooden turtle, Marcus took everyone to the botanical garden where the triplets loved to watch koi fish. It was a cold morning. Everyone wore warm coats. Marcus had brought hot chocolate that the children passed around, breath making little clouds in the air. Caleb was building a tower of small pebbles. Levi arranged twigs in a spiral pattern. Asher signed to Marcus about a fish he'd seen, and then quietly Caleb said, "The tower needs one more pebble." His voice was small, rusty from disuse, but it was there. Everyone froze. Caleb looked up, surprised by his own voice. Levi and Asher stared at their brother, eyes wide. Marcus signed gently. "You spoke. That was beautiful." Caleb's eyes filled with tears. He signed, "I didn't mean to." "It's okay," Catherine said softly, kneeling beside him. "You don't have to speak if you don't want to, but your voice is beautiful, sweetheart. We've missed it." Levi touched his brother's hand. Then carefully, he whispered, "I miss talking to you sometimes." Asher nodded and added in a soft voice, "Me too." Catherine pulled all 3 boys into her arms, tears streaming. "No pressure. You talk when you're ready, or don't talk at all. We love you exactly as you are." But something had shifted. The first words had come naturally, not forced, not demanded, but offered freely when they finally felt safe enough. Emma signed to her father. They found their voices. Marcus signed back. They always had them. They just needed time. The words came slowly after that. Not every day, not even every week, but gradually Levi, Caleb, and Asher began mixing spoken words with sign language, choosing how to communicate based on comfort rather than expectation. They spoke more to Marcus and Emma than anyone else at first. Marcus never made a big deal of it, just accepted whatever form their communication took. Catherine watched her sons bloom. They started laughing sometimes, soft, tentative sounds that grew stronger. They asked questions, told stories, spoke out loud, and through it all, Marcus and Catherine's relationship deepened. Family dinners, sleepovers where all 4 children camped in blanket forts. Conversations about the future, about what it might look like if they truly combined their lives. "I want this to be real," Catherine said one night on her couch, children asleep in the next room. "I want you in my life, Marcus, permanently." "I want that too," Marcus admitted, "but I worry about Emma, about the adjustment." "You're an incredible father," Catherine said firmly. "Emma is thriving. She's happy. She has friends now. She has you. That's everything." Marcus pulled her close. "Then let's do this. Let's really do this." "Are you proposing?" Catherine teased. "Not yet," Marcus said with a smile. But soon, 12 months after that first wooden turtle, Marcus knew the time was right. He'd spent weeks carving a special Seta family of 5 figures connected at the hands, so smooth and perfect they felt like love made tangible. He took everyone to the botanical garden where the triplets had first spoken again. It was early spring. Trees were blooming, birds chirped. Morning sun cast everything in golden light. Marcus gathered everyone together. Then, smiling nervously, he knelt in the grass while Levi, Caleb, Asher, and Emma stood nearby, each holding a hand-painted sign. "Will you marry us?" Catherine's hands flew to her mouth. She looked at Marcus, at the children, at the signs they held with such hope. "All of you?" she asked, voice breaking. "All of us," Marcus confirmed. "We want to be a real family if you'll have us." Tears streamed down Catherine's face. "Yes, yes to all of you. Yes, yes, yes." The children rushed forward, wrapping arms around their parents in a tangle of laughter and love. Levi spoke clearly. "We're going to be a real family now," Caleb added, "with a dad who listens. Emma signed, and brothers who understand me." Marcus pulled out the wooden carving, the family of 5 figures, and placed it in Catherine's hands. "For you, for us, something to hold on to." Catherine clutched it to her chest, feeling its smoothness, its warmth, its weight. "It's perfect. You're all perfect." The wedding was held 6 months later in that same botanical garden under a canopy of autumn flowers. Levi, Caleb, and Asher wore matching boutonnieres and carried signs in both English and AS. "Today, we become a family." Emma signed the vows for Marcus, her small hands careful and precise. Catherine repeated them, voice steady and sure. The triplets spoke their own vows, short and simple. "We promise to be brave together." When they exchanged rings, all 4 children rushed forward, wrapping arms around their parents in a tangle of laughter and love. That evening, in their newly shared home, a house with a garden and a workshop for carving, the family gathered in the living room. Levi, Caleb, and Asher sat at the keyboard in the corner, playing a melody they'd been practicing. Their voices joined the music, still hesitant sometimes, but growing stronger. They sang a song about finding home, about being safe, about love that covers you when you feel too small. Emma sat beside them, feeling the keyboard's vibrations through her hands, her face bright with joy. Marcus and Catherine stood by the window, arms around each other, watching their children, their family, fill the house with music and laughter. "We did it," Catherine whispered. "We built something beautiful from broken pieces." "We did," Marcus agreed. Together, on the mantel sat the wooden carving of 5 figures holding hands, smooth, perfect, unbreakable. Next to it, the very first wooden turtle Marcus had carved, the one that started everything. Small objects that said, "You're not alone. Someone made this thinking of you." Someone carved away all the rough edges so it wouldn't hurt to hold. 2 broken families had become one whole one. Levi, Caleb, and Asher found their voices again, speaking more each day, laughing when the mood struck, slowly letting the world back in on their own terms. They learned that silence was okay, that sign language was just as valid as speech, that they could choose how to communicate. Emma found brothers who learned to sign fluently, who included her in everything, who never treated her like she was different or less. She found a second mother who learned her language and loved her fiercely. Catherine found a partner who understood that strength sometimes looks like vulnerability, that healing isn't linear, that love after loss is possible. She found peace knowing her sons were truly okay, not fixed or changed, but accepted and loved exactly as they were. And Marcus found forgiveness not just from Catherine or the children, but from himself. The guilt would always be there, a quiet companion. But it was no longer the only thing he carried. He carried love, too. Hope, purpose, family. He'd learned what he tried to show the triplets all those months ago, that everyone deserves to be seen. Not their diagnosis or trauma or problems. Just them whole, worthy, deserving of gentleness, including himself. Sometimes healing doesn't come from words or therapy or grand gestures. Sometimes it comes from something small and smooth that fits in your palm and reminds you you deserve softness, you deserve patience, you deserve something carved with care just for you. Sometimes it comes from someone who sees your silence not as something to fix, but as something to honor. Thank you for watching this journey with me. If this story reminded you that healing is possible, that broken pieces can build something beautiful, that everyone deserves to be seen, please subscribe to Soul Up Tales. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments what's one small gesture that changed your life. Your story matters.